All right, recording is started, and this is the August 11th, 2022 Crossplane community meeting. Agenda document is right here on my screen, but I will drop a link to it into the chat right now, into the Zoom chat, so you have a direct link to it there as well. Feel free to add yourself as an attendee or add some agenda items you want to discuss as well. The agenda is open the entire meeting until we get to the end and we adjourn. So feel free to add anything you want to talk about until we get to the end there. So let's hop on into releases. So 1.10, we are still less than a third of the way through the cycle for the 1.10 release. 1.9 was middle of July or so. And as a reminder, we made a decision to move to a 3-month cadence for getting Crossplane official, core Crossplane releases out. So we'll be doing that on a quarterly cadence, which means that they're every 3 months or so. So from middle of July to the 3 months would carry us to the middle of October. So I'm proposing a release date of October 18th, which is a Tuesday, and it's the Tuesday, I think, the week before KubeCon. So that fits in kind of nicely to get a release out and have something to talk about at KubeCon, when we're doing our maintainer track and when we're getting a little PR from the CNCF and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's the schedule that I propose. The calendar has not been updated yet because I just wrote that in this morning here on the community agenda document. So we can follow up to get the release table and the community calendar updated, but I think that schedule would work well given the 3-month cadence that we're going after now. So we are, so we're about a little bit less than a third of the way through. So something else to show you all is that I took a pass at kind of cleaning up what we're doing with our projects and releases. So GitHub now has made what they were calling the beta projects. They've made that now into the default stable regular project experience now. So we had been using like a 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 milestone by milestone project board with the old style boards, but now the GitHub is going with the, their beta boards are now the mainstream way to do it. I've gone ahead and created a new board for that. And I need to create access to it as well. Because I'm not logged in here. Let me see if I can quickly open that up to public access so that all of us can access it as well. Sorry about the delay on that. Have any of you all folks been using the new GitHub project boards, and do you like the experience or any complaints about them? All right, let's try this again now. Okay, sweet. There we go. So now it is publicly accessible. So basically what we're looking at here, just a quick primer on these new GitHub project boards. Basically, they pull from one source of issues and tracking things that get added to the project, and then you have a whole set of views and filters on top of it is basically what you get. So the filter we have here is all issues that are kind of something that are priorities for the community. So we have, like in this view, we'll have, what's in review, what's in progress, what's in design, et cetera. And then a backlog here of issues that we know are important or things that are going to be worked on. And then we'll have some other views like milestone by milestone. So we'll have a 1.10 scoped view that will kind of filter out everything that's included in the 1.10 milestone. And we'll have that pretty much that approach of all the releases will essentially be views into this project here. So I think that will work very well, and we can get kind of fancy with it a little bit too. We just created this, so it's still, just a single backlog with a couple, with different statuses for where issues are, and we're not filtering or separating out by milestone just yet. But that'll happen pretty darn soon since we've got this now set up and we're ready to use it. So if folks have things that they want to add to this project board, feel free to ping me and let me know so I can get it included in the board here and we can prioritize and do all that sort of stuff. So that's how we'll be tracking or giving visibility into what's in the releases now. It's all into one board as opposed to, different boards and different links for each milestone. It's in kind of concentrated in one place now, essentially. Any notes on 1.10 or the efforts there? Bob, you may notice that there's a whole bunch of talk that you've been driving and been a part of with like this issue here, foreground and cascading deletion. So I've kind of already just included that in the design there because I mean we're kind of talking and discussing and working on design already, right?
Yeah, that's great. I was going to ask you how to get that added to the board. So that's great.
Yeah, there it is. It's on the board. Yep, because I know that's a lot of chatter on that, a lot of stuff that's being driven there. So yep, I included that one already. Sweet. Okay, any questions on 1.10 or project management stuff? All right, then we can move on to providers. Then is Christopher on the call? No, it doesn't look like Christopher is here today. But so I think within the last 6 hours or so, there's a release for provider AWS, the 0.30 release. So all the release notes are here for a whole bunch of new services and fixes for existing managed resources as well. So I think a bunch of good work there that went into that release. And I don't see anyone's name on the call that I think would want to speak more to it. But if anybody has more comments that they want to add, feel free to add comments now. Yeah, so this was just today. So Christopher, when you watch the recording, thank you for that effort on getting that release out. We also have a provider Kubernetes release that was out just after the last community meeting. So somewhat it's recent since the last community meeting, but it's been almost 2 weeks now. Hassan, it looks like you ran this release. Do you want to talk a little bit about the functionality that's in there?
Sorry, Jared. So yes, let me quickly check that. Yeah, so in provider Kubernetes, we didn't have the max reconcile rates flag, and in this release, we put that flag thanks to, I think it was Bob. And like more important than that, with this flag and with the new default, provider Kubernetes now processes custom resources in 10 parallel threads, which is a performance improvement or an improvement already, other than just having the flag.
And before this change, and thanks Bob for making that change. Before this change, was it processing resources entirely in a serial manner, one after another?
Yeah, actually, like this, like the default value of this flag has a side effect of setting max concurrent reconciles flag of controller runtime to 10. Previously it defaults to 1, and now it's 10.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's definitely a performance improvement for sure. Doing things in parallel now.
And while I'm on mute, I contacted Muafak, and he said that he won't be able to make it today. But regarding the fuzzing, if I understood correctly, he said that they are planning to take the tickets into these sprints already.
Awesome. Thank you, Hassan, then for that update. That sounds great. Thanks for checking in.
Sure.
All right, and then look, there's been a provider Terraform release as well that looks like Bob ran this one, and a number of fixes from both Bob and Yuri on this one. So do you guys want to tell us a little bit more about this release?
Yeah, this was basically the same change that went into provider Kubernetes in terms of we're now supporting max reconcile rate as an input. The difference here is because provider Terraform is running the Terraform CLI. If you set the default to 10, like we did in provider Kubernetes, you will quickly use potentially up to 10 CPUs if you've got that much workload on it. So I left the default to 1, and basically it's up to the user to decide, if they want to increase it, and then if they want to put any resource limitations on it. So that's really the big change there. I do run it with 10, in our environment, and it works great. We need to do some walking and some other stuff, but the performance improvement is definitely significant. I think other than that, there's just a bunch of cleanup, and I don't remember anything else major. Oh, there was an issue with the or a change with the making the Git credentials available to local Terraform modules as well as remote Terraform modules that I think Louise had requested. So that's in there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, great to get this release out. And Yuri, is there anything that you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, maybe it's mentioned in main release topics that state locking is solved, right? So like almost solved, meaning like before the change, before this release, we followed the standard Terraform behavior, which is locking state even on read-only Terraform plan. Every observe and underline Terraform plan was locking the mechanism, which led to, like, in case of a pod crash or even a standard planned controller upgrade, the associated workspace could end up in a locking state, which would frequently result into inconvenient situation when one has to get into the pod and unlock it manually. So it's kind of very inconvenient and nasty. And now we are not looking on most of the situation. We're looking at on only on when it's really needed. So the chance to hit this problem is very low now. So I think it contributes to overall usability heavily. And overall, congrats, Bob, with the first end-to-end release of Provider Terraform. Thank you a lot. And thanks a lot for all contributions and discussions all over Crossplane ecosystem. We are very happy to have you in the community, Bob. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, right on, Yuri. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. And I totally second all of that there. Great contributions. All right, so those are the recent releases of providers that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are others as well as the provider ecosystem continues to expand. So feel free to drop a link to any other releases of providers from the ecosystem into the agenda document here, and we'll get some coverage of it there. All right, what just happened? Here we are. So moving on to the community topics section, we typically have a bunch of links here for interesting content going on about or referencing Crossplane. So there's a couple of interesting links here for some upcoming talks. This one here, Aaron Torgerson and Ryan Baker, they're going to do a talk at VMware conference coming up about integrating Crossplane and Tanzu, and specifically, I believe it's focusing on some supply chain security stuff. So it should be pretty interesting to check out, so that you can see the link there to get information on how to find that talk. And then there's a number of blog posts that folks have been writing recently that are linked to here. I would particularly call out Mauricio's blog post here about integrating vCluster in Crossplane, which is a pretty interesting topic. So feel free to read through these, check these blog posts out, and always interesting content going on that people are writing in the ecosystem here. Love all of it. Quick updates for the Linux Foundation mentorship program. So we are working with both Rahika and Parul on their projects as we go through the summer term here. We're in the back stretch of the summer term. They're 12-week terms. I think we're in week 9 or 10 now. So we are in the back third, the final stretch here for these mentorship projects with the Linux Foundation. So Rahika she has started writing the testing logic for being able to detect breaking changes in CRDs. She's adding first condition of fields being removed from one version of the CRD to the next. So she's working on that logic and is integrating it into the continuous integration system, so that check will run when people open PRs. So that's her next step, and something that she's trying to get end-to-end working, so then we can add more rules and more logic of things to check for breaking changes in CRDs, but starting with one rule and plumbing it through end-to-end all the way, so that the CI system will run, it will examine them, and it will report back and cause errors essentially on as a status check on pull requests. So that's what Rahika's been up to. Parul has started writing her unit tests for connecting to private registries at runtime. And we're starting with Google's artifact registry, whatever it's called. I'm sorry, I flake on the name a little bit there sometimes. But she has started writing that unit test. Dan Mangum has been helping out with creating the private repositories and a CI process to build and push to private repositories so that her unit tests have something to connect to and pull down. She's also been doing a number of additions to some of our provider and Crossplane upgrade integration end-to-end tests as well. Those have been historically a little unreliable. And so she's added some really helpful logging to be able to identify the cause of failures and to be able to troubleshoot those better. So she's got a pull request open for that as well. So those are the latest updates for Rahika and Parul. I would let them speak for themselves, but I think it's like after midnight where they live, so they're not in attendance here. But yeah, that's a really good effort for both of those folks, and enjoying having them as mentors this summer, or sorry, mentees this summer. So for KubeCon North America 2022 in Detroit, Michigan, the agenda has been, the schedule has been released since the last community meeting. And so there are 8 different talks that are available or are going to be featuring or mentioning Crossplane. I didn't quickly figure out a way to link to the search results here. So, unless somebody figures out a nice way to do that, you just type Crossplane in, hit search. And here are all of the 8 different talks that are going to be about Crossplane. So that's kind of in some shape or form. So really, really excited about, continuing to get interesting content, interesting use cases and scenarios, et cetera, being shared with the greater ecosystem in this, in KubeCon, one of the bigger formats for our ecosystem to be on, be on the stage and be talking about the, what we're doing. So really excited to see that, and seeing more, folks that are not maintainers and, more end users and folks, all across the community and ecosystem and other projects as well, being able to, integrate Crossplane and talk about it too. So really excited for 8 different talks in Detroit, and congratulations to everyone who got their talk accepted. Is there anyone on the call who got one of their talks accepted? I'm not sure if Jesse's here. Maybe not, but congratulations to everyone either way. We also do have the maintainer track for Crossplane. So if you want to speak about Crossplane and get involved there and delivering the sessions, intro deep dive sessions on the maintainer track, just reach out to me and we can talk about that opportunity as well. So we've raised this a couple of times on the agenda, and so I probably will leave it off next time. But Craig is still looking to connect with folks from the Crossplane community about their success stories, about their use cases, et cetera. So feel free to click on this link and add yourself there and participate in that conversation, and Craig will reach out to you. This is the fuzz testing stuff that I had asked for Muafiq's help on. So Hassan, thanks for connecting us on that. So yeah, it hasn't been clear to me. So the CNCF is collaborating with us to do some security testing, specifically fuzz testing. And so we've gotten some issues that have been coming out of that, a handful of issues. It's not been immediately clear to me exactly what to fix or what to do with some of those. So we're like Hassan told us that Muafiq is going to be following up on those, and over the next couple weeks here to dig into those and see what issues or what remedies we would need to put into Crossplane to deal with some of the potential issues coming up from fuzz testing. One of the things I've had a little bit of problems with is that the output for some of these tests is kind of hard to parse, and some they say like unreproducible. So I'm not sure if that means like, okay, is this a flake? Is this something that's not an issue? So we need to dig into it a little bit more to understand the severity of these and what they actually mean, which we will be doing. All right, so Bob, you've added a couple links here, so let's go ahead and dive into those as well then. And
so this is one of the things we talked about in the last meeting. And And I know Nick had said that he thought this was probably a bug. This specific issue was probably a bug and was not intentional. The render function in the composite area was basically clobbering any existing owner references and just putting the Crossplane controller owner reference in. This change just refactors that so that it just adds the controller reference to any existing owner references. So that'll preserve any owner references that were added by other Kubernetes things.
Yeah, good point, Bob. And I remember that conversation from last community meeting, and the general consensus was that was probably a good approach to take there. So thanks for following up and getting a pull request open with that code change. And so yeah, we'll try to get one of the Crossplane maintainers to take a look at that and provide me feedback, or think through that use case or this scenario a little bit further to make sure that's the safe thing to do. Is there any part of that change there? It looks fairly straightforward, Bob. Is there any part that you want to specifically call out to pay special attention to in the review, or it's kind of straightforward of this is the addition here, and then you've got some test cases for it too?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty straightforward. Just basically changing the overwrite to an append. So. The nice thing is that the way that code is built is if the append finds the object already there, it's just gonna update the existing one. So there's no issues with duplicates or anything. So yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it's pretty straightforward. And this is one of the series of changes that is needed to support cascading forward deletion and references from external controllers. So.
Yep, that sounds great, Bob. All right, let's go ahead and check out the next set of links here. So yes, the foreground cascading deletion. I know there's a whole bunch of conversation on that one. I thought this was a bigger issue that had a bunch of discussion. Am I thinking of something? Another one?
Is. It is a bigger issue, and my initial plan was to try to tackle the whole thing, and then I kind of thought to myself, you know what? If somebody came to me and wanted to address all of these things at once, I would probably glaze over and not understand what they were talking about. And so I decided to break it into some more manageable pieces. This particular proposal is very specific to cascading forward deletion itself. There are two issues in Crossplane that are preventing it from doing foreground cascading deletion the way I think it should be handled, and I think Yuri agrees with me, but other people may have other opinions, which I'd love to hear. Basically, with foreground cascading deletion, Kubernetes will follow the owner reference chain to set up a dependency graph, and it will add a finalizer to everything that is not the bottom of that graph, right? The leaf nodes of that graph, preventing those things from being deleted until the dependencies themselves are deleted. So you can't delete a pod until you can't delete the deployment until the pods are gone. You can't delete the pods until the PVCs are gone. That whole concept. Unfortunately, in Crossplane, there's two issues. Number one, Crossplane is not setting the block owner deletion flag in its controller references, which I don't think is a big deal. I think that's it's a one-line code change, and it only affects cascading forward deletion. It has literally no impact on anything else. So if you're not doing foreground cascading deletion, you won't care. The second part is a little bit more invasive, a little bit more complicated. Crossplane is ignoring finalizers that are not its own. So as soon as an object gets marked deleted, even if there's another finalizer from foreground deletion or from some other controller, Crossplane doesn't care. It just executes the delete functionality, and the remote resource, in a case of a managed resource, the remote resource goes away. In the case of a composite resource, the composite goes away, and none of those other finalizers had any impact on processing. And I think, you know, my feeling kind of is that if we want to be a good corporate a good Kubernetes citizen, we should be respecting those finalizers that other controllers might be putting on us, and, you know, delay calling the delete processing until those finalizers have been removed. Because, you know, if somebody else sticks a finalizer on me, then that basically says they have a dependency. They want me to stick around until their dependency is cleared. And once that dependency is cleared, they'll remove the finalizer and I can go away. And I think it would be good for Crossplane to honor that. And, you know, it's a little bit more complicated, obviously, because Crossplane is representing other things. It's not, you know, the resource itself, it's the representation of other resources. So it's a little bit more complicated, but the more I thought about it, the more logical it seemed to be. So I would love to get other folks' opinion on how that should work, or, you know, if there's other things that I'm not considering. It is coordinated changes between Crossplane and Crossplane runtime, which obviously means I'd have to rebuild some of the providers with the updated Crossplane runtime. But I think this is directionally correct in terms of handling some of the other dependency issues that will come in phase 2 of this. So that was very long-winded.
Can I say something? That's awesome. If we can honor other finalizers, we can also add some custom logic for deletion. For example, where I work, I want to give a deletion logic for repositories in GitHub. I don't want to delete them. I want to archive them instead of deletion. So I could add a custom finalizer to the repository resource, and for Crossplane, the deletion policy would be orphan. But for me, I would have a controller which will handle this archive option in the repository. So if we fix this problem that you are saying to this issue, it also adds the possibility to other users add this logic to its resources.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking as I was going through this, is that it really makes it makes Crossplane conformant to the way Kubernetes expects things to work, which allows people to do other things outside of Crossplane that maybe now Crossplane doesn't need to worry about, right? There's been this whole issue around dependency management and, you know, other kind of adjacent features that Crossplane really doesn't want to pull into core, and yet they're really important. Well, maybe if we can do something like this, then maybe you can leverage Kyverno, or you can leverage other projects to do some of those features, you know, in Kubernetes space. And Crossplane doesn't need to worry about it. Crossplane just benefits from being a part of that and supporting those interfaces.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, you know, Bob and Gabriel. Those are really good points there. Where, you know, the more conformance or compliance an operating model is with the rest of the ecosystem, you know, the more like tooling and integrations, et cetera, can be built around it because the behavior is as expected. So that's a good point to make there. And Bob, thanks for taking the time to, you know, kind of write this up and get a little bit more clarity into your thoughts here. So you were talking about a couple phases. Did you capture also like what the next phases would be as well, or like kind of like the way you see a sequence of this playing out? Yeah.
So I mean, I finished this at like 10 o'clock last night because I'm a very last minute person. So I do have the next proposal kind of sketched out, and basically what it does is it builds on top of this. And if you're familiar with the dependency management that was added into provider Kubernetes, where they have a depends on reference type that will reach out to a dependency and add to a depending object and add a finalizer to it, right? So if I say that the object that I have in provider Kubernetes is dependent on that thing over there, then provider Kubernetes will reach out to that thing over there and put a finalizer on it, so it can't go away until the provider Kubernetes object has gone away. Which is great, except that it won't work with Crossplane resources because of this right here, right? And it really allows you to start managing dependencies between applications and infrastructure or whatever other dependencies you need to manage without doing it, without Crossplane worrying about it, right? Because I know Crossplane doesn't want to worry about dependencies. It wants to do reconciliation, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, on the delete side, there are dependencies that need to be managed, and there's all kinds of discussions around that. So the next proposal was basically to, or is going to be, cascading finalizers during reconciliation, because it's not enough for me to put a finalizer on a composite object and expect that cascading foreground deletion is going to take care of it, because it won't. Cascading foreground deletion does not put finalizers on the leaf objects of the tree. And so the deletion will start even though that finalizer has been put there. And so I think what we need to do, and the proposal will be, is to, in reconciliation, cascade finalizers down through the resource tree, including to the leaf nodes, so that nothing can go away until that root level finalizer has been removed by the dependent object. And then obviously the reconciliation would remove the reconciled finalizers, and the deletion can happen the way it goes. This one is definitely going to need pictures and examples, and much more, I think, description of how it should, quote unquote, work. But I think that will get us closer to where we can actually do dependency management. And I think the complexity lies in the fact that a typical Kubernetes dependency is a one-to-one thing, right? I'm dependent on a volume, or I'm dependent on a pod, or whatever. In Crossplane, declaring the dependency on a composite is not enough. What you mean is that you are dependent on all of the resources that composite is composed of. And so we need to preserve all of those resources until the dependency is removed. So anyway, that's the next step.
That's good. Awesome, Bob. Yeah, this is great. So yeah, I think that there will definitely be some, thinking through how this model, can potentially interact with maybe some assumptions that are in the composition machinery. So it'll definitely be good to get some more opinions on how this integrates with that, or if this would break any of those assumptions, or change anything there. Hassan or Yuri, et cetera, do you guys have some other comments that you want to add to this right now, or go think about it? We can go think about it and add comments asynchronously as we kind of digest it more.
Yeah, maybe quickly on a finalizer behavior. So Bob, what kind of model do you have in mind when to actually react to deletion timestamps? When only crossplane finalizer, core crossplane finalizer is left on the resource? Is that correct?
Yes.
So okay.
Yeah, the trivial logic. I mean, right. So right now there's one and only one finalizer, right? Because Crossplane has added it, presumably. And so the trivial check is, the length of the list of finalizers is one, right? At that point, the only finalizer left is the Crossplane finalizer, and you can execute the deletion code. I'm not sure that's sufficient, but the trivial check would be, if there's only one finalizer left, it must be mine, and so I can delete.
Right. And what about owner references, specifically in provider Kubernetes? They're still required for a proper foreground cascading deletion. Is that correct?
Yes, foreground cascading. Exactly. Foreground cascading deletion relies on the owner reference to do the tree, the graph generation, which is how it knows where to put the foreground deletion finalizer. It strikes me a little bit that there may be some, with the owner reference change in provider Kubernetes, there may be some overlap now between those two features. The finalizer that provider Kubernetes adds may be not necessary if you're doing foreground cascading deletion, but maybe you're not doing foreground cascading deletion and you want that finalizer to be there. So I don't think it's a big deal to have two. But
yeah, I think
yeah,
they can support each other. Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Hassan, I think we need your opinion on that as provider Kubernetes maintainer.
Yeah, actually this is something in my to-do list, like to read through the all the discussions so far and to get a context to be able to comment. I left a quick comment, but later I read the response from Bob, which I believe reveals that I'm missing something indeed. So this is definitely like in my to-do list, and I would like to thank you, Bob, and also Yuri for driving this, because this is also something that I personally hit a couple of times and currently resolved with some sort of workaround by putting managed resources inside some extra composites, etc. So I think this will definitely be helpful. I have a couple of questions or concerns, with the discussions so far I heard in this meeting, but I feel like I should better comment on the tickets, and we can discuss there. But listening this, all this context definitely helped me a lot, so I can jump on that issue just quicker right now. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Awesome, Hassan. Yeah, thanks for sharing that as well, man. Great. Okay, cool. So yeah, so thanks again for driving this and getting this well organized, and then you can think through this all and have it well fleshed out together. So this is great. We can keep on driving that. Let's see. So that's everything that was on the agenda. Anything else that folks want to add before we go ahead and adjourn?
I think we
All right.
got Chris on call in the meantime, so he can share us some provider AWS Glory, right?
So yeah, if you want, I was a little bit late. Yeah, I cut the release and bring a lot of things in, which was open as PRs. So a few new resources available. So like VPC flow logs, security group rules, because this was out of my company because we needed this in our EKS setup to fulfill our security stuffs. And we bring it up. And then also out of the community, there was a few things for Prometheus or managed Prometheus service. So rule group, namespaces, alert manager, things that is also available now. And the rest, I guess, was a few things for bug fixes in S3 buckets, in topics. That's it, I guess. Sorry that this was a little bit late because I had not so much time in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, no worries, Christopher, and thanks for all the effort that you put into provider AWS, man. You're definitely a force to be reckoned with there, and you're appreciated. I also like to see here that there's 11 different people contributing now to that had commits in this release. So that's really awesome to see that other folks are getting more involved as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Christopher. And all right, so then yes, so I think that's everything for the agenda then, and we can go ahead and wrap it up. Good to see everybody this week, and we'll continue the discussions on GitHub and Slack, and good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Bye.